May the clerk of court call the matter.
Your Honors, scheduled for today's oral argument are 4 consolidated petitions assailing Joint Resolution Number 6, dated December 12, 2018, of both Houses of Congress, further extending Proclamation Number 216, Series of 2017, entitled Declaring a State of Martial Law and Suspending the Privilege of the Writ of Habeas Corpus in the whole of Mindanao for another period of 1 year from January 1, 2019 to December 31, 2019. The 4 petitions are docketed as follows. GR number 243522, entitled Representatives Edsel Lachman, Tomasito Villarin, Teddy Broner Bagilat Jr., Edgar Eresi, Gary Alejano, Jose Christopher Y. Belmonte, and Arlene Kaka Bagao, petitioners, versus the Honorable Salvador Medjaldea, Executive Secretary, Honorable Delphine Lorenzana, Secretary of the Department of National Defense and Martial Law Administrator, General Benjamin Madrigal Jr., Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and Martial Law Implementer, and Honorable Benjamin Jokno, Secretary of the Department of Budget and Management, and as impleaded party respondent pursuant to the Court's resolution dated January 15, 2019, the Congress of the Philippines, as respondents. The second petition, Your Honors, docketed as GR number 243677, entitled Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Isagani Zarate, Gabriela Women's Representatives Emerenciano de Jesus and Arlene Rosas, Anak Pawis Representative Ariel B. Casilaw, ACT Teachers Representatives Antonio Tino and Franz Castro, and Kabataan Party List Representative Sarah Jane Ilago as petitioners, versus President Rodrigo Duterte, Congress of the Philippines represented by Senate President Vicente Soto III and House Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, the Executive Secretary Salvador Medjaldea, Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana, Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Benjamin Madrigal Jr., and the Philippine National Police Director General or Oscar David Albayalde as respondents. The third petition, Your Honors, is docketed as GR number 243745, entitled Christian Monsod, Ray Paulo J. Santiago, Nolasco Rich Lee Santos III, Marie Hazel La Vitoria, Dominic Amon Ladesa, and Samantha Sofia Santos as petitioners, versus Senate of the Philippines, represented by Senate President Vicente Soto III, House of Representatives, represented by Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Executive Secretary Salvador Medjaldea, Department of National Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana, Department of Interior and Local Government Secretary Eduardo Año, Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff General Benjamin Madrigal Jr., Philippine National Police Chief Director General Oscar Albayalde, and National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon Jr. as respondents. The other petition, Your Honor, is docketed as GR number 243797, entitled Rios Valle, Jose May Palomo, Jenny Rose Hayahay, and Rorilyn Mandakawan as petitioners, versus Senate of the Philippines, represented by Senate President Vicente Soto III, House of Representatives, represented by the Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Executive Secretary, the Secretary of National Defense, the Secretary of Interior and Local Government, the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Director General, Philippine National Police, and all persons acting under the control, direction, instruction, and/or supervision as respondents. The appearances, Your Honors, are as follows. Counsel, please stand as your name is called. For GR number 243522, Congressman Edsel Lachman and Attorney Jake M. Fajardo, representing the petitioners. For the petitioners in GR number 243677, Attorney Nery Colmenares, Attorney Efrain Cortez, Attorney Manica Stol Sarsa, Attorney Maria Cristina Yambot, Attorney Minerva Lopez for the petitioners. And for the petitioners in GR number 243745, Attorney Christian Monsod, Attorney Ray Paulo Santiago, Attorney Mary Hazel La Victoria, Attorney John Paul de la Pasion, and for the petitioners in GR 243797, Attorney Jose Manuel Diokno, Attorney Theodore Te, and counsel for respondents from the Office of the Solicitor General, headed by Solicitor General Jose C. Calida. Assistant Solicitor General Renan Ramos, Assistant Solicitor General Vida San Vicente, Assistant Solicitor General John Emmanuel Madamba, Assistant Solicitor General Rex Bernardo Pascual, Assistant Solicitor General Marisa Macaray Guillen, and Assistant Solicitor General Hermes Ocampo. Your Honors, these are the appearances of counsel.
Thank you. You may now sit. The sequence of proceedings today will be started by Justice Caguioa.
Chief, as we agreed in the in-bank, there was a PowerPoint submitted by the AFP. There were two PowerPoints, one by the OSG, the other one by the AFP itself, and I think it was the agreement of the bank that we can allow the AFP to present their PowerPoint to kick this off.
In the meantime, may I ask the Solicitor General if he's ready to communicate what he has received from his clients?
May it please the Honorable Court. Your Honor, I talked with my clients regarding the what we have discussed, Your Honor, and they agree that it can be given to other persons who are interested in this case, Your Honor.
Thank
That's
you.
all, Your Honor.
Thank you. The other parties are so guided.
Excuse me, Your Honor. And also regarding certain discrepancies, I received this afternoon only when I entered the building, the corrected data, Your Honor. And we will be submitting this so that there will be no discrepancy as to the numbers, Your Honor.
Were this part of the updating that we already incorporated in the copies that were given to the council today? Are you aware of that?
Well, I was aware that there was a document given, Your Honor, but
Okay. Counsel of the petitioners, will you please take note of this? Before we gave these copies to you, we already included or inserted the corrected material. And if this corrected material or any part of the material does not jive with any material that is presented today, just call the attention of the Solicitor General so that you could be given the corrected material.
thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you also. Are you ready now with the presentation? Who is going to make the presentation?
The Chief Justice, the Honorable Lucas Bersamin, sir, other members of this Honorable Court, I am Major General Pablo Lorenzo, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Intelligence, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and I'll be making the presentation in behalf of the defendants.
In the meantime, may I interrupt you? There is a problem. All right, you may proceed with your manifestation pending solution of that problem. Technical problem.
Yes, sir. The purpose of this briefing is to inform the Honorable Supreme Court Justices on the security situation in Mindanao, to establish that rebellion still exists and that public safety requires the extension of martial law in the area. The sequence of my presentation is as shown. Wala pa. No signal. Okay, sir. The sequence of the presentation is as shown on the slide. As a backgrounder, the violent takeover of Marawi City by local terrorist groups and embedded foreign terrorist fighters affiliated
Just a
with
while,
Islamic
General,
State.
just a while. There is a problem. Next slide, please. So as a backgrounder, the violent takeover of Marawi City by local terrorist groups and embedded foreign terrorist fighters affiliated with the Islamic State led the President to declare martial law in Mindanao on May 23, 2017 by virtue of Presidential Proclamation number 216. This bloody attempt to create a separate province or wilayat under the purported Islamic State Caliphate necessitated strong, swift, and decisive actions by the government. On July 22, 2017, martial law was extended for 5 more months until the end of 2017 in order to sustain the operational momentum against the Dawla Islamiyah hold up in Marawi and prevent the spillover of rebellion in other areas in Mindanao. As a result, Marawi City was liberated from terrorists on October 23, 2017. On December 13, 2017, the Philippine Congress approved anew another extension of martial law up to the end of 2018 to effectively quell the remnants of these rebel groups that continue to take up arms against the government. On February 6, 2018,
The Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of the martial law extension. On December 12, 2018, the Philippine Congress approved the request of the President to extend martial law for one more year up to the end of 2019. The constitutionality of which, however, is again being questioned in this August body. This presentation will therefore show that after almost 20 months since martial law was first declared in Mindanao, rebellion still exists, and that the safety of the public is imperiled by the rebellion, notwithstanding the gains achieved during its period of implementation. The factual basis for the extension of martial law is anchored on the continuing rebellion being waged by the communist terrorist group and the local communist terrorist groups, along with their foreign terrorist allies. The following slides provide the current status and activities of these groups. For the local terrorist groups and the foreign terrorist fighters, there are two major terrorist groups waging rebellion in the country. First, the Dawla Islamiyah, which is the local franchise of the Islamic State, and the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, or BIFF, a faction that broke away from the MILF when the latter agreed to settle for enhanced autonomy instead of an independent Islamic State. The Dawla Islamiyah, or DI, is a collective term of all local terrorist groups that have pledged allegiance to Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. It used to be headed by the late Isnilon Hapilon. After its failed attempt in Marawi, the DI continues its rebellion. In its official newsletter from Dabiq to Rome, dated 22 September 2018, the Islamic State provided the rationale for the continuing war that is being waged by its affiliates around the world, and I quote, "to defend the lands of Islam and to make the word of Allah the highest," unquote. Moreover, the Islamic State, through the same newsletter, as well as its Amaq news agency, continues to claim credit for the accomplishments of the soldiers of the Khilafah, or Caliphate, including those in East Asia Wilayat. Indeed, as the Islamic State Central in Iraq and Syria continues to lose territories, the burden of continuing its fight and projecting its global presence has now fallen into the hands of its affiliates, including the East Asia Wilayat, to which the DI belongs. At present, the Dawla Islamiyah is comprised of the post-Marawi remnants of the local Islamic State affiliated groups, namely the Lanao-based Maute Group, led by Owaida M. Abdul Majid alias Abu Dar, the Maguindanao-based Toraife Group, is still headed by former BIFF Vice Chairman for Internal Affairs, Ismail Abdul Malik, aka Abu Toraife. The Sarangani-based Magid Group, whose de facto leader is now Geoffrey Nilong, aka Moymoy. And the Basilan and Sulu-based Abu Sayyaf groups, led by Furuji Indama and Hadjan Sawadjaan, respectively. The Dawla Islamiyah's total manpower is placed at 574, equipped with 564 firearms. Its presence and influence can be felt in 154 barangays in western, southern, and central Mindanao. Foreign terrorist fighters, or FTFs, are also embedded with these DI-affiliated groups, which further complicate the government's effort to effectively address these LTGs. Aside from their high level of motivation, brought about by their deep ideological foundations, they usually bring with them combat experience, contacts in international terrorist networks, and functional knowledge in urban warfare tactics, IED fabrication and employment, anti-armor operations, cyber communications, and financial operations, among others. As such, the FTF's continued presence facilitates the transmission of ideology, knowledge, and competencies to local terrorist groups. They have also become primary instigators of more daring and deadly attacks. For instance, on July 31, 2018, foreign terrorist fighter Abu Kathir al-Maghrebi became the first suicide bomber recorded in the Philippines since the rise of the Islamic State. As of the latest count, there are 4 validated foreign terrorist fighters in the country, while another 60 are on the watch list. For 2018, these DI-affiliated groups figured in 72 encounters or clashes with government security forces, resulting in 84 killed and 168 wounded on the part of the enemy, government security forces, and civilians. In one instance, specifically last 16 November 2018, the ASG was able to kill 5 soldiers and injure 23 others. One of the soldiers who was killed, Corporal Reinhard T. Makad, was even beheaded. An FTF was likewise seen together with the engaged Abu Sayyaf group. From January to December 2018, the DI carried out 76, composed of 10 other DI-affiliated groups and 66 Abu Sayyaf group atrocities or violent activities, the most significant of which are the bombings and kidnappings. With regards to bombings, the most significant are the bombing in Lamitan City, Basilan by the ASG, 2 bombings in Isulan, Sultan Kudarat, and the recent bombing in Cotabato City by the DI Toraife Group, and 1 bombing in General Santos City by the DI Magid Group. Collectively, this resulted in 17 killed and 100 injured, mostly civilians. On kidnappings, which has been the primary source of funds by the Abu Sayyaf group, a total of 18 incidents victimizing 39 individuals were recorded for 2018. This allowed the group to accumulate approximately 41.9 million pesos in ransom payments. Thus far, kidnap victims Sultan Kudarat in May 2018, and the combat training of Abu Sayyaf group members under Basilan-based sub-leader Furuji Indama, along with 1 Moroccan national in Sumisip Basilan in August 2018. As mentioned earlier, the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters broke away from the MILF when the latter decided to seriously engage in peace negotiations with the government. The BIFF has adopted the original objective of the MILF, which is to establish an independent Bangsamoro state. As such, the group is strongly opposed to the MILF-sponsored Bangsamoro Organic Law, which is threatening the group's relevance and purpose of existence. Because of this, the BIFF is exploring all means to derail its implementation while continuing its violent push for the creation of an independent Bangsamoro homeland. At present, the BIFF is composed of the Karyalan and Bungus factions. Their combined manpower and firearms are placed at 264 and 254 respectively. The BIFF continues to exert considerable influence in 50 barangays in the municipalities of Sharif Agwak, Datu Saudi Ampatuan, Datu Unsay, Datu Hofer Ampatuan, Datu Salibu, and Datu Piang, all in Maguindanao. It also operates in some parts of North Cotabato, particularly in Pikit, Midsayap, and Alyosan. For 2018, the BIFF figured in 55 encounters or clashes with government security forces that resulted in 14 killed and 36 injured in the enemy, government security forces, and civilians alike. Furthermore, the BIFF managed to undertake 76 atrocities or violent activities. The most significant are the 21 IED attacks and 40 harassments of military installations. All these incidents resulted in the killing of 7 government forces, 8 civilians, and the wounding of 23 government forces and 5 civilians. The BIFF was able to conduct 2 IED trainings, one in South Ufi and another one in Sharif Aguak, Maguindanao, in February and December last year, with around 50 participants who were tasked to conduct test missions in key urban areas in central Mindanao after these trainings. On the result of government operations, empowered by martial law, the government security forces continue to make significant headway in the fight against rebel forces. Specifically, government operations against the DI have caused the death, arrest, or surrender of a total of 530 of its members last year. Most notable among them are the following personalities as shown on the slide. 6 high-value individuals killed, arrested, and surrendered. On the other hand, similar efforts against the BIFF caused the death, arrest, or surrender of a total of 198 personalities, including prominent rebels. These include the surrender of the group of Field Commander Sindatok Delna, aka Motolite, in May last year, and the killing of bomb experts Buds Basilan and Norodin Usman, aka Noro, in March and October last year. Moreover, government troops seized an arms factory in General Salipada, Cape Pendaton, Maguindanao, in May 2018. It is significant to point out that while some bombings occurred, far more bombing plots had also been preempted. Nonetheless, the magnitude of these bombing operations, the latest of which was the 27 January Holo Cathedral bombing, which killed at least 21, records have it that it could be 22 already, people, and injured 97 others, demonstrate the continuing danger posed to the public by these terrorist groups while advancing their respective political objectives. Going now to the communist terrorist group, there is also a continuing rebellion. In its 5 decades of rebellion, the CTG's ultimate objective of seizing political power and supplanting the country's democratic form of government with communist rule through violent means remains unaltered. To achieve its rebellious objective, the CTG continuously wages armed struggle along mass-based and united front building. Despite the government's comprehensive approaches to end the CTG rebellion, 2018 saw its ability to persist and continue conducting atrocities to advance the rebellion. As cited in the CPP Central Committee's 50th anniversary message last December, for instance, it acknowledged the stepping up of carrying out atrocities as shown. And may I read verbatimly. The revolutionary armed struggle being waged by the New People's Army is steadily advancing nationwide. Under the party's leadership, the NPA continues to seize the initiative in waging widespread and intensive guerrilla warfare based on an ever-widening and deepening mass base across the country. It has recently stepped up annihilative tactical offensives from north to south, wiping out small enemy units and seizing firearms and other war material, while carrying out numerous attritive actions against fascist troops with the help of People's Militias and Self-Defense Corps of revolutionary mass organizations, unquote. It also admitted to have its successful tactical offensives in Mindanao to wit, and may I quote again, despite being the focus of enemy offensives, the NPA in Mindanao continues to persevere and succeed in launching annihilative tactical offensives, most notable of which is the recent overrunning of a CAFGO detachment and capture of 24 firearms in Agusan del Sur, unquote. And it also disclosed the continuous conduct of revolutionary armed struggle and building political power in the countryside, and again I quote, as we mark and celebrate the party's 50th anniversary, we look forward to accomplishing ever bigger achievements and revolutionary victories. The party and all revolutionary forces must persevere in carrying out and further developing extensive and intensive guerrilla warfare based on an ever-widening and deepening mass base in order to bring the People's War to the advanced stage of the strategic defensive and thus lay the ground for further advancing to the strategic stalemate. In line with the strategy of protracted People's War, we continue to wage revolutionary armed struggle, carry out land reform, and build political power in the countryside until it is capable of seizing political power in the cities and the national capital," unquote. The continuing CTG activities being felt until today are clearly all in line with the statements released by the party's Central Committee and by Jose Maria Sison. In a CTG publication, for instance, CTG declared that, again, may I quote, "The new People's Army will intensify its tactical offensives to defeat the campaign of the enemy to destroy it, while carrying out agrarian revolution, expanding and deepening mass base, will serve to strengthen the revolutionary movement by seizing arms from the enemy forces and will expose the lies of the enemy, which misrepresented the character and status of the People's Army and seek to mislead the people. The intensified offensives are meant to develop a fully armed company per guerrilla front and fulfill the maturation of the strategic defensive and proceed to the strategic stalemate in a few years' time. The National Democratic Front of the Philippines will further strengthen itself as the most consolidated realization of the National United Front, but will be able to cooperate with all possible allies in the broad United Front in order to isolate and oust the Duterte regime from power," unquote. Sison's statements have clearly put him guilty of inciting to rebellion under Article 138 of the Revised Penal Code, and the CTG activities, as manifested in the different forms of atrocities that they have been perpetrating until today, constitutes acts of rebellion and are endangering public safety, particularly in Mindanao. Notably, among the major islands in the country, Mindanao, particularly in its eastern part, is the hotbed of communist insurgency. Of the 28 provinces in Mindanao, 8 are classified as active in terms of the communist insurgency, while 6 are categorized as less active. As of year-end 2018, the CTG's manpower in Mindanao is pegged at 1,648, equipped with 1,568 firearms and affecting 232 barangays, while its guerrilla fronts remain at 32. These figures portray its capability to sustain their armed rebellion and atrocities in Mindanao. Moreover, its continuing effort to advance its revolutionary agenda resulted in the establishment of a new guerrilla front in western Mindanao. This is an indication that despite the setbacks it incurred in the series of surrenders and neutralization during the martial law period, the CTG continues to conduct recovery and expansion works and even intensified its recruitment activities that led to the creation of the said guerrilla front. Furthermore, there were 287 recorded armed clashes in Mindanao, which led to the death of 57 and the wounding of 200 government forces. More importantly, these firefights have also resulted in the death of 15 civilians and the wounding of 7 others. With its current manpower, it is evident that the CTG is well capable of perpetrating hostile activities that could inflict considerable casualties on government troops and endanger public safety. In fact, the CTG high-ranking leaders, through their publications, urged their guerrilla units to intensify violent undertakings against the government, businesses, and civilians who refuse to join and or support the armed movement. The CTG continues to blatantly disregard government authority by utilizing its armed group, as can be gleaned from the 193 atrocities that the group perpetrated in Mindanao, representing 52% of the 369 NPA-initiated violent incidents nationwide in 2018. Such CTG atrocities resulted in the killing of 10 government forces, while 51 others were wounded. Significantly, such atrocities also led to the death of 37 and the wounding of 7 civilians. Aside from causing the death of civilians and government forces, the CTG continuously conducts extortion activities to sustain their armed rebellion. To note, the CTG have destroyed private and public properties by conducting 25 extortion-related arson activities, damaging properties amounting to 167 million pesos. These atrocities discourage investments and businesses, thereby adversely affecting the region's economy and the general well-being of the people in Mindanao. In addition, the CNTs also sowed terror by staging 10 improvised explosive device attacks against government security forces, conducting civic and humanitarian missions in the far-flung areas and depressed communities in Mindanao. All this demonstrate open and hostile defiance to government authority and undermining our democratic system. With this situation, the CTG in Mindanao remains a continuing national security concern, and its intent, plans, and activities clearly portrayed the continuing rebellion that is endangering public safety. Thus, the momentum of the AFP campaigns and the comprehensive approach of the government should be sustained and even enhanced to finally decisively defeat them and ensure the safety of the people in Mindanao. In conclusion, it is clear that the various rebel groups continue to actively pursue goals of seizing political power, totally or partially in Mindanao, through violent means, as demonstrated by the frequency of clashes, the intensity and magnitude of atrocities being conducted by these rebel groups, and the substantial casualties arising from these incidents. The statistics do not merely pose a simple law enforcement challenge. All these undeniably point to an ongoing rebellion that imperils public safety, thereby warranting the extension of martial law in Mindanao. The armed forces therefore humbly implore the honorable justices to uphold the extension of martial law, one that is provided for by the Constitution, subject to appropriate safeguards to effectively address the ongoing rebellion that continues to threaten the security of the people as well as the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the state. The people of Mindanao are very appreciative of the benevolent martial law implementation, as manifested by the continuing support and clamor for its extension by private and business sectors, regional and local peace and order councils, local government units, and other entities. That ends the presentation. Thank you very much.
Justice Kagioa.
Thank you, Chief. General Lorenzo, maybe I can propound my questions to you. First off, I'd like to clarify from the Solicitor General whether this is the same slide presentation that was attached to your compliance, because I watched that, and comparing that to this one, this seems to be a more expanded PowerPoint. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Subject to some inputs.
Your Honor, this is an expanded version of that, Your Honor.
Can I request that you submit copies of the PowerPoint, this one,
Yes,
to the
Your Honor.
court? Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Soft copies, Solgen.
Your Honor, we can give you the soft as well as the hard copy.
Thank you. Soljan, before you leave, can I ask some preliminary questions from you? Yes. I just want to confirm. You've submitted your comment and compliance, and each one has its set of annexes that are identical to each other, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
The only difference is that you submitted the TSN for the December 12, 2018 joint session in your compliance, correct? That's the only additional document you attached to your compliance.
Yes, Your Honor.
As well, you have submitted the monthly reports from January 2018 to December as corrected.
Yes, Your Honor.
So my question to you is, are there any other documents that you will be submitting to the court to prove the sufficiency of the factual basis for the extension of martial law?
The one
Aside from the
presented, Your
PowerPoint.
Honor.
Aside from the PowerPoint that you will submit, is there any other thing that you will be submitting?
May I consult with my clients, Your Honor?
Please.
Your Honor. According to our clients, Your Honor, if allowed, they will also present additional data or on the incident of the Holo bombing cathedral, as well as they were able to find two IEDs, improvised bombs in Basilan, Your Honor. If they will be allowed to submit that, Your Honor.
With the permission of the bank, perhaps you can submit this together with the memorandum
Yes,
that
Your Honor.
is to be filed on Feb 1.
And with respect to the fourth petition, LUMAD, we might be submitting additional documents with respect to the LUMAD petition, Your Honor, because it came very late to us, Your Honor.
But just to be clear, Solgen, since the court is under a specific strict time frame, that can be submitted by Feb 1 as well,
Yes, Your Honor.
together with the memorandum.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can I ask General Lorenzo?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're familiar with what reports have been submitted by the Solicitor General to the court, the annexes?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I can propound questions to you on the basis of the annexes.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Just for clarification, my questions will be confined to the submissions in the comment and compliance. I will not be touching on the monthly reports. Is that okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
For the benefit of everybody, I've prepared a matrix which I will be flashing on the screen that tables all the incidents that have been submitted. Once in a while, I will be referring to that matrix for my questions, General. Okay? Chief, do we ask him to take an oath? Do we ask him to take an oath?
By the way, there is no need to swear you to an oath because anything that you say here will be judicial admissions, judicial statements. But you are put on notice that any untruthfulness that you would utter here may be taken against the credit of your statement.
All right, let me begin by my small questions. I noticed that in the annexes that you submitted, at the lower right-hand portion, there is a stamp that says authenticated by, and there is a signature over the name, and if I can read the name, SMS Dionisio Medillo, PAF, NCOIC, ATP, OJ2. Can you tell us who this person is?
Yes, Your Honor, he is an enlisted personnel assigned with our office.
And can you tell us what his functions are?
He is assigned with the Anti-Terrorist Division of the OJ2. He receives reports, assists in the research and preparation of intelligence reports relative to the counter-terrorism efforts of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Your Honor.
He is based in Mindanao,
He is based in Manila,
Manila.
at Camp Aguinaldo, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Just to be clear, what does SMS stand for? Senior Master Sergeant?
Senior Master Sergeant.
What is NCOIC ATP OJ2?
Non-commissioned officer in charge, Anti-Terrorism Division.
OJ2.
Yes,
J2
Your
is the intelligence section
Yes,
of the...
Your Honor.
All right. I have compared the contents of the monthly reports with that of the annexes to the comment, and I have noticed that there are a number of figures that don't seem to match. I'm comparing the annexes in your comment to the monthly reports. On the screen is an example of one such mismatch. This is an incident that happened on January 6, 2018, and it talks of the liquidation of Abdurrahim Kitu by his half-brother. That is based on the comment. And yet, in the monthly report for January 6, 2018, what is reported is an encounter with the BIF, not the ASG, and no mention of the ASG encounter on the monthly report on this date. So I'm not asking you to explain the discrepancy now, General, but I would like that you reconcile the discrepancies that are contained when you compare the annexes to the comment to the monthly reports. And if you can submit that as well in the memorandum.
We will do that, Your Honor.
Okay. Going back to your annexes, which are these tables, can I ask who prepared the tables and when were they prepared? These are the tables in your annexes. I think the ultimate source is OJ2. So
Yes,
my
sir.
question is, when were they prepared and who prepared them?
So this is a collaborative effort of the Anti-Terrorism Division. It's an office under me, one of the divisions under OJ2. So specifically, sir, may I be allowed to confer with my staff on this and
Sure,
make
no problem.
submissions eventually?
Okay. Were these tables prepared for purposes of submission to Congress? Or are they reports that are regularly prepared?
These are regularly prepared, sir, as we receive reports. We come out with periodic reports as well as special reports. And for this specific submission, sir, there was another convening to prepare the requirements for this, the defense of this extension of martial law.
Okay. Just a little small point of clarification. I noticed a lot of acronyms appearing in these reports, one of them being 601 BD, 26 MICO, WMC DIB, which I understand to be the 601st Brigade, 26th Military Intelligence Company, West Mincom Daily Intelligence Brief. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, in the interest of time, and again, I'm addressing this to both you and the Solgen, perhaps you can submit with your memo a glossary of all these terms and abbreviations so that we will have a better understanding of the ultimate source of these tables. Okay?
Certainly, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now, going back to the person who authenticated these reports, can you tell us the process? What is the process that OJ2 follows in authenticating reports, in vetting intel? Can you tell us how that process goes?
May I be clarified on the question, Your Honor?
In the preparation of these tables, I'm sure there is a vetting process, there is an authentication process, as explained by the phrase authenticated by. I just want to know what is the process involved in the process of authentication.
So normally, sir, as we receive reports for intelligence processing, sir, there is the so-called intelligence cycle. So as we receive reports, that is the submission of reports to us that is already, shall I say, collected information goes through different stages of processing. We collate, integrate, and bring in other information that are related to it. We also evaluate the source of the report, whether in terms of reliability, the accuracy of the information, until we come out with a more refined or more accurate intelligence. So that is for the intelligence cycle.
Oh, okay,
But if you are
let me cut you. When Medillo says he authenticates these tables, what exactly is he saying?
Your Honor, if you are referring to authentication of documents as to the authenticity of what we are receiving, he will just look at the original file, and a reproduction of that would be authenticated by usually officers under us. We have admin officers to authenticate
So just to be
documents
clear,
that go
yes.
out of our offices.
So just to be clear, there are more raw information coming in. They all come together. You do a screening, check the sources, and then you make your conclusions, and all of that is in a report, and Mr. Medillo simply collates and compiles these reports. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. These reports that come in, or these reports on which the information in the tables are based, can I presume that they were prepared on or about the dates indicated in the reports?
Yes, Your Honor.
So when an incident is stated to be January 6, 2018, this annex that was given is a report that was generated on or about that time.
The date and time usually that is indicated there, sir, is the date of the incident.
Of the incident.
As contained in the report.
Okay.
So the preparation of the report may come later, but it should be as soon as possible.
All right. In the
Your
nature of a fact inquiry by the court, I and my lawyers have gone through a lot of the annexes, and we noticed that there are a number of entries in Annex 4, 1 in Annex 5, and 4 entries in Annex 6 that have incomplete texts. Can I ask that that is a picture of one of your annexes. And there are portions at the top that are missing. There are portions at the bottom that are missing. So, again, I don't expect you, General Lorenzo, to explain to me what are the missing parts. What I want to emphasize only is that we need to see the complete entry. So, again, those are just examples. They're just exemplars, but they're all over the submissions. So if you could also please complete the information in the annexes so that we have a better picture of the description of the incident. Can that also be submitted with the memorandum?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
We will comply, Your Honor. Check.
Okay, let me focus on Annex 4. These are the ASG-initiated violent incidents. In the Annex 4, it lists down a total of 66 incidents. We were able to count 7 IED incidents. Can I put that on the screen? Okay. For the record, since we are being recorded, I will read into the record the incidents I'm referring to. January 21, 2018, February 1, 2018, February 16, 2018, April 11, 2018, May 11, 2018, June 30, 2018, and October 12, 2018. In these 7 IED incidents, the reports do not identify the perpetrators. That is what those 7 incident reports are. Since these reports were made at the time indicated, as you mentioned, my question now is, would you be in a position to submit to the court any update or any report by which you were able to identify, or have you now identified the perpetrators? Can you submit that as well?
Yes, Your Honor. Any development on these reports are actually plowed back to the field for further collection of related information until we get to the bottom of the incident, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Justice Ben, before you continue, may I request that no pictures should be taken from that side? Will you please avoid, because that is very distracting to us. I think you know who we are referring to, please.
Annex 4.
Thank you.
Can I continue, Chief? Okay. So, General Lorenzo, this is my concern. If these reports do not identify the perpetrators, then I want to know what is the basis for the report to say that these are acts attributable to the ASG. But I recognize that these reports are dated January, February, April, May, June. So a lot of time has lapsed, and therefore the information of OJ2 might be more updated. So in the memorandum, if you could please tell us whether or not you have in fact been able to identify the perpetrators. Tell us as well if you have not been able to identify the perpetrators. And if so, what is the basis for the AFP to consider them as ASG-initiated violent incident? That table refers only to the IED attacks. there are the other items referring to bombing and shooting as well. General Lorenzo, can I ask that you tell us how you attribute these incidents to the ASG when there is a failure to identify the perpetrator? Okay. In the same Annex 4, there are 5 instances where there were statements to the effect that PNP will, and I quote, conduct an investigation to establish the motive and identity of the perpetrators. I'm referring to, can I ask for the slide for that one? So for the record, these incidents are February 1, February 4, March 7, June 25, and August 16. So my question here, General Lorenzo, is whether or not there is any result to these investigations. Are they in writing? And if you can submit them to the court together with the memorandum.
Yes, Your Honor.
I note as well that in Annex 4, there are perpetrators described as, and I quote, unidentified, or there was no indication whatsoever of the perpetrator. I'm referring to another list of incidents that I want that is flashed. Okay. Again, these are 27 incidents. And again, for the record, I would read their dates. January 21, IED. February 1, ambuscade. February 1, IED. February 4, murder. February 16, IED. February 17, harassment. March 7, kidnapping. March 22, kidnapping. April 5, kidnapping. April 11, IED. April 16, grenade throwing. April 22, harassment. April 28, murder. May 11, IED. May 28, ambuscade. June 20, June 25, and June 27, kidnapping. June 30, IED. July 15, kidnapping. July 31, bombing. August 16, August 31, and September 22, kidnapping. October 12, IED. November 14, harassment. And December 30, 2018. The court would like to know, General, whether or not these unidentified men have since been identified. Again, in your memo, not now. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
There are other entries also where the perpetrators are labeled, and I quote, believed to be ASG, or I quote, suspected ASG, or I quote, undetermined number of ASG. Again, I'm flashing on the screen all of those incidents, and I will read into the record the date of the incident and the type of attack. So January 7, harassment. February 24, ambuscade. March 5, shooting. April 5, kidnapping. July 29, liquidation. January 31, ambuscade. Again, I'm going to ask you, when you file the memorandum, for you to confirm if in fact these perpetrators are ASG and what is the basis for that conclusion. Essentially, General Lorenzo, I'm asking you to update all the information on these reports that are dated January early on. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. There are numerous other reported incidents that did not refer to any motive or say that the motive is, and I quote, not established, or I quote, yet to be determined. Again, I'm referring to 49 incidents. And again, just for purposes of putting into the record, I will go through the dates as well as the type of attack. So January 7, harassment. January 21, IED. February 1, IED. February 4, murder. February 5, liquidation. February 8, harassment. February 16, attempted seajacking. February 16, IED. Feb 17, harassment. Feb 24, ambuscade. February 24, liquidation. March 5 and March 20 for harassment. March 22, kidnapping. March 31, liquidation. April 3, kidnapping. April 11, IED. April 28, murder. April 29, kidnapping. May 11, IED. May 22, kidnapping. May 28, ambuscade. June 2, kidnapping. June 4, liquidation. June 7, kidnapping. June 16, harassment. June 20, kidnapping. June 27, harassment. June 27, kidnapping. June 30, IED. July 4, harassment. July 15, kidnapping. July 29, liquidation. July 31, bombing. August 18, bombing. August 31, kidnapping. September 9, harassment. September 11, kidnapping. September 22, kidnapping. October 12, IED. November 14, harassment. November 23, carnapping. November 30, arson. November 30, harassment. December 5, kidnapping. December 12, kidnapping. December 12, murder. December 13, shooting. And December 30, shooting. Once more, the court would want you to indicate in your memorandum if the motive for these incidents has since been determined and what is the basis for this conclusion.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm now referring to another 17 incidents where the incident is merely reported and there is no stated motive and there is no stated perpetrator. I'm flashing that on the screen as well. Again, let me read into the record the 17 instances. January 21, IED. February 1, IED. February 16, IED. February 17, harassment. March 22, kidnapping. April 3, kidnapping. April 11 and May 11, IED. May 28, ambuscade. June 30, IED. July 15, kidnapping. July 31, bombing. August 31, kidnapping. September 11, kidnapping. September 22, kidnapping. October 12, IED. December 30, shooting. Again, I'm asking that you inform the court in your memorandum as to the motive and the identity of the perpetrators in these incidents.
Yes, Your Honor.
As well, in all of the 66 incidents of Annex 4, can you also inform the court in your memorandum if any arrests have been made and if further investigations are still being done? Okay. Okay. Of course, in your annexes, there are entries where the perpetrator as well as the motive have been identified, and that's in the next screen there. There are about 7. These are exemplars. But for the record, let me describe what they are. A harassment incident dated February 4. A harassment incident dated February 28, where a certain guro has a family feud with the incumbent barangay chairman of Dugaa, Basilan. A harassment incident dated March 30. a shooting dated June 7, where an ASG leader mistakenly shot his brother outside their safe house. Kidnapping dated September 11, where a pump boat driver and crew were taken from Sabah. Arson dated November 30, which is the burning of a house that has no indication of any motive. And the kidnapping of 3 foreigners in Sabah on December 5. For these entries, where your annexes have identified the perpetrators and have identified specific motives, my question here to the government as well as to the Solicitor General is for you to say in the memorandum how these incidents support the contention that there is a continuing or persisting rebellion in these areas. Okay? Let me turn to another slide which indicates 8 incidents, and I'm asking that the particulars of these incidents be fleshed out. These are, again, January 6 liquidation, January 30 ambuscade, February 1 ambuscade, April 16 grenade throwing, April 29 kidnapping, August 18 ambuscade, October 12 IED, and December 13 shooting. I need an explanation in the memorandum how these incidents, which on their face appear to be either politically motivated or personally based, how these are classified as incidents connected with ASG's violent activities, how they support the assertion that rebellion persists in Mindanao. So specifically, just to give you an idea where I'm going, I'd like to talk about the incident on the liquidation incident dated January 6, 2018, where the perpetrator of the killing was the half-brother of the victim. What made you classify this incident as connected with ASG's activities as opposed to an isolated case of murder? That's the kind of explanation I would appreciate to have, General. Also, in the harassment incident dated February 28, it talks about a family feud. Again, what makes you classify this family feud as connected to the rebellion? And then in the incident dated June 17, the victim was a member of the ASG, killed by another ASG. So how does that support the contention that rebellion persists? Again, I'm functioning on the basis of what have been submitted by the government as proof that rebellion continues to exist. Okay, General?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm sorry to be boring you with all of these, but I just need to go through each one. Okay. For kidnapping incidents, you listed 19 incidents of kidnapping for the year 2018. I refer to the following. I think it's in the, all right. Again, I will read into the record the dates and the location. February 14, Holo, Sulu. March 7, Maimbung, Sulu. March 22, Patikul, Sulu. April 3, Barangay Poblacion, Zamboanga, Sibugay. April 5, April 29, May 22, June 2, and June 7, all in Patikul, Sulu. June 20, Talipao, Sulu. June 25, Tandubas, Tawi-Tawi. June 27, Sirawai, Zamboanga del Norte. July 15, Cabasalan, Zamboanga, Sibugay. August 16, Holo. August 31, Sirawai, Zamboanga del Norte. September 11, Seporna, Sabah. September 22, Holo, Sulu. December 5, Lahad, Datu. And December 12, Idanan, Sulu. Of these 19 incidents, these are 19, the perpetrators are labeled as just suspected or unidentified in 10 of them. So again, since we do not know for a fact whether or not these perpetrators have been identified, I'm asking that for these 19 incidents, you tell us in the memorandum whether or not as of today they have in fact been so identified and why they are being related to ASG. Okay. Let me go to Annex 5. Annex 5 you have labeled as BIFF-initiated violent incidents. And there are 74 incidents tagged as BIFF-initiated. I note that of the 74 incidents, the BIFF is identified only in 23 of them. That leaves a remaining 51 incidents which, according to this annex, are claimed to be BIFF-initiated. Now, again, can I ask you to submit to the court in your memorandum the reasons for classifying each incident as BIFF-initiated? As well, can you please specify the factual basis for this classification? Okay. If you read the 74 incidents, we identify only 6 motives to have been stated. I'll show you in the screen. Again, I will read them. April 18, ambuscade, Rido. May 7, 2018, harassment, Rido. August 13, liquidation, personal grudge. October 15, firefight in relation to harassment. July 23, kidnapping for interrogation. May 6, firefight over an argument over campaign tarpaulin placements. July 24, arson for refusal to give the mandatory zakat. Again, in your memorandum, I would like to see how these incidents support the assertion that rebellion continues to persist, because they seem to be for motives other than rebellion. Okay, General?
Yes, Your Honor.
Malapit na ako. I'm going to Annex 6, the DI-initiated violent incidents. In your Annex 6, there are only 10 incidents listed, and majority of the reported casualties were incurred in 4 IED incidents. I'd like that to be flashed on the screen. Here, in these 4 incidents, the perpetrators were not identified. Again, for the record, I read. August 28, Isulan, Sultan Kudarat. September 2, Isulan, Sultan Kudarat. September 16, Barangay Apopong, General Santos. December 31, Cotabato City, Maguindanao. Again, my question is, without the perpetrators having been identified, how is it that you are classifying these incidents as attributable to DI? In this regard, one of the incidents is the explosion in front of a mall entrance. particularly to the location of firecracker vendors, resulting in 2 people killed and 32 wounded. Again, I also want to know what is our basis for saying that this is DI. And also, there is a statement in the report that states, and I quote, "Make and kind still to be determined by responding PNP and Army EOD." So my question there is, has the PNP EOD been able to determine, as of present, whether the explosion was really caused by an IED or whether they were just the firecrackers? Again, General, in the memo, if you could submit that information.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, let me turn to the next slide, which lists down 5 entries that describe encounters between and among MILF, BIFF, ASG, and DI. So these incidents are, for the record, November 10, 2018 in Marugong, Lanao del Sur. May 7, harassment in Datu Salibo, Maguindanao. October 15 and October 18, firefights in Maguindanao. And June 17, shooting in Indanan, Sulu. Again, this seems to be just fights amongst these groups. So I need an explanation how these encounters amongst them would constitute proof of a persisting rebellion. Last 2 questions, General. In the comment that was submitted, and the things I've gone through on very specific basis, tables on the specific incidents involving ASG and BIFF and DI were submitted, but none for NPA-initiated violent incidents. It's just a table. My question is, will you be submitting also for the NPA-initiated incidents detailed incident reports to support that table, or no more?
We can do that also, Your Honor.
Yes, please, if you could do that. Everything's by Friday, General. That's the date of the memorandum, so that's February 1. Okay, my last question is this. Is there a projected or estimated timeline when government forces will be able to put an end to what you say is a persisting rebellion in Mindanao? Is there a timeline?
We have targets in our campaign targeting the different groups, Your Honor. So what I can say at this point is it is dependent on the accomplishment or attainment of the target goals set in the different campaigns that we are implementing, Your
Okay.
Honor.
At which point in time, from your perspective, can you say that rebellion would have been quelled? At which point in time? When the last rebel is dead? At which point in time do we say rebellion is done? It's no longer persisting. Just for me to understand from your point of view.
Sir, given that question, what I could say is it's not the killing of every single rebel out there. When we can say that rebellion no longer exists. Rather, it is the attainment of a level of security whereby the different threat groups can no longer impose their will or impose their will on the people, or they are no longer effective as far as attaining their political objectives are concerned.
So until
we set certain parameters for this, Your Honor.
So until such time that that level of security is not attained, it is your position that rebellion continues. Is that it?
Yes, Your Honor.
So until such time that rebellion continues, martial law will continue.
Not necessarily, Your Honor.
But that is the that was the endorsement of the military to the president, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
I have no further questions.
Thank you, Justice Kagiwa. May I now ask Justice Carpio if he has any interpolation.
General, can you please remain? I have only one question for you. Is there an ongoing armed rebellion today in Marawi City?
Not in Marawi City, Your Honor.
Thank you, General.
Okay, may we have now interpolation of Justice Bernabe?
Okay, can I just call Mr. Solgen to the podium?
Yes,
Good
Your Honor.
afternoon, Mr.
Good
Solgen.
afternoon.
Now, can you tell us the basis for the following issuances? First, proclamation number 216.
Beg your pardon, Your Honor.
Can you just tell me or tell us the basis for the following issuances? The first one is proclamation 216.
Well, as decided in the Lachman versus Medialdea case, there was an existing rebellion in Mindanao, Your Honor, and public safety requires the imposition of martial law, Your Honor, and
Alright.
suspension of the writ of habeas corpus.
Okay. Now, one of the whereas clauses in proclamation number 216 reads, whereas this recent attack shows the capabilities of the Maute group and other rebel groups to sow terror. Can you please identify who these rebel groups are?
Can I get my notes, Your Honor?
Yes.
Well, Your Honor, the following are the rebel groups. The Abu Sayyaf Group, the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, the Ula Islamia, the Maute Group, the Turaifi Group, Magid Group, and the other groups that subscribe to the Daesh ideology,
All
Your
right.
Honor.
Now, what's the basis for resolution of both houses number 2? The extension of the martial law until December of 2017.
I believe that there is a continuation of the rebellion, Your Honor. That's why we asked for extension, Your Honor.
And the request was based on the reason that the rebellion has not been quelled.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, how about the resolution of both houses number 4?
You mean the January 1, 2018
18
to
up to December
December 31.
31st, 2018.
for the same reasons, Your Honor, that rebellion persists and public safety requires the continuation or the extension of martial law.
Okay, but in the extension of Proclamation 216 until December 31st, 2018, there were other groups mentioned already. You now have the remnants groups of Hapilon and Maute. You also have the Turaifi group.
Yes, Your Honor.
These are all the rebel groups that you are referring to.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, coming to the recent events, on December 4, 2018, the President once more sent a letter to Congress requesting for another extension. Can you state the reasons behind the President's most recent request?
The President asked Congress, Your Honor, to extend the duration of martial law from January 1, 2019 to December 31, 2019, because, again, the rebellion persists and public safety requires it, Your Honor, that the martial law duration should be extended. And this was triggered by some of these incidents, Your Honor. The Lamitan bombing on July 31, 2018, that killed 11 individuals and wounded 10 others. The two Isulan Sultan Kudarat IED explosions on August 21, 2018, and September 2, 2018, which collectively left 5 casualties and wounded 45 individuals. And the Barangay Apopong General Santos City IED explosion on September 16, 2018, that left 8 individuals, including a 3-year-old child, wounded. And there were also various kidnapping incidents by the Abu Sayyaf group factions in Sulu, involving a Dutch, a Vietnamese, and 2 Indonesians and 4 Filipinos. It was also indicated that at least 342 violent incidents were perpetrated by the communist terrorist groups, meaning the NPAs, in furtherance of its public declaration to seize political power and supplant the nation's democratic form of government with communism. These incidents include harassments, attacks against government installations, liquidation operations, and various arson attacks as part of the extortion schemes, which took place mostly in eastern Mindanao from January 1, 2018 to November 30, 2018.
Okay, having
Yes, sir.
gone all over the previous issuances, would you say that the considerations for the most recent extension and the resolution of both houses number 6 are identical to those stated in proclamation number 216?
Well, they are not
Or
exactly
based on
identical,
current
Your Honor.
developments, can you say that the situation contemplated in proclamation 216 has already changed?
There is still a need, Your Honor, to extend the martial law because of the ongoing threat to public safety, Your Honor, and the rebellion waged by the not only by the communist terrorist groups, but as well as the local terrorist groups, especially those groups that were Daesh-inspired, Your Honor.
Except, of course, that the leadership of Hapilon and the Maute brothers have already changed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, in the comment, respondents referenced the December 8, 2017 letter of the President, which justified the second extension by saying that, I quote, "Despite the death of Hapilon and the Maute brothers, the remnants of their groups have continued to rebuild their organization. Are the activities of the Maute Hapilon group still a consideration now for the third extension?"
Well, because of their recruitment, Your Honor, their strength is again, they have recruited more members, Your Honor. In fact, the Holo bombing incident yesterday is in Holo, Your Honor, and this is the hotbed of ASG insurgency, Your Honor.
Right now, can you give us specifics such as an estimate of how many of these remnants are left, or report of what activities were recently conducted? You can probably just state this in the memorandum.
Yes, Your Honor, we will do that.
Okay. Now, under the revised penal code, you have the purpose of the uprising or movement to be considered as a rebellion, and you have to remove from the allegiance to the government, the territory of the Philippines, or deprive the chief executive or Congress of any of their powers and prerogatives. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Now, based on the long history of the CNT, ASG, and BIFF in Mindanao, do you believe that their purpose is to remove allegiance from the government or deprive the chief executive and Congress of their powers and prerogatives? Or are these activities based on social and political ideologies?
You are correct in saying, Your Honor, that these atrocities deprive not only the President and Congress of their powers and prerogatives in the areas where they control, Your Honor. And they want to supplant our democracy with the Islamic beliefs.
Now, how about the DI-affiliated groups? Would you say that their activities are just merely religiously motivated?
It goes beyond religious motivation, Your Honor. They want to expand their control over other countries.
All right. Now, are there conceptual differences between the term terrorism and rebellion? Are these terms mutually exclusive?
Not necessarily, Your Honor. In fact, rebellion can be a predicate crime for terrorism, Your Honor.
That's under the Human Security Act.
Yes, Your Honor.
That would be all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Solgen.
Justice Herdalesa.
Thank you, Chief. Before I ask my first question, can I ask the able assistants of the Solgen to give to the Solgen the transcript of the joint session of the Congress, December 12, 2018. I think that is page 57 of the transcript.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah. Thank you, ASG Rex. Mr. Soljan, do you have it? I think this is the part of the transcript, the statement of Secretary Lorenzana. Starting with the sentence, kapag po na i-reduce yan.
Reduce their capability.
Do you find
I've read it.
Oh.
I've read it, Your Honor. That's
Yan.
Wa-
May I request, with the permission of the Chief, is Secretary Anyo still around?
yeah. He went to the restroom, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. May I request, I think Chief of the PNP, Chief Albayalde is here. Chief, may I request if he
Yes, Your
can
Honor.
come forward?
General Albayalde, please.
Also, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, General Benjamin Mendoza.
Madrigal.
Now,
USEC Secretary Cesar Yano is here. And Chief, who is representing Secretary Lorenzana?
Undersecretary Yano,
Yano?
I think they went out to call for him.
Well,
Your Honor, some of those are in the restroom right now. Yeah.
okay, that's all right. But the question I have, Mr. Solgen, and the reason I can give you a time to confer with them, I would like you to look at the testimony of Secretary Lorenzana to the Congress, and I quote, kapag po na-reduce iyan ng about 30% ng kanilang capability and they become law enforcement problems, then the police forces can take over without the military. Period, end of quote. Do you see it, Mr. Solgen? So I would like to give you time to show it to General Albayalde and Yusek Yano. And when General Mendoza and Secretary Anyo are back, I'm sorry, Madrigal are back, you can show it also to them. And then I have a question which you can answer after you confer with them. Is it the position of the government that when the capability of the local and the communist terrorist groups are degraded by 30%, then you can already recommend to the President that martial law is over? You can confer with your clients, Mr. Soldier.
Undersecretary Yano, he's there? You are Undersecretary Yano. All right. There is an instruction or request for you to confer with the Solicitor General on the subject of that interpellation. You may join the Solicitor General. Secretary Anyo, you are, I think, needed to confer with the Solicitor General.
Your Honor, we have talked with our clients, and I will ask one of them to answer your question, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Soldier.
Your Honor, I'm General Benjamin Madrigal Jr., the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines. Regarding the statement of the Secretary, that basically, Your Honor, is the military definition of a destruction of the enemy. When you attain 30%, not only in terms of number of the regular forces, but rather 30%, you have reduced the enemy by 30% in terms of strength, firearms, the support system, for example, the barangay affectations, as well as resources, Your Honor.
So I think that's very interesting, General. In effect, that is what I am asking. What is the science behind the 30%? And I think, correct me if I am correct, if I am right, the capability of the enemies of the state is measured, and I see it, that's how you present it to Congress, in terms of, one, manpower. That's why you have number of people. Number two, firearms. Number three, I think, controlled barangays.
Yes, Your Honor.
And number four, violent incidents.
Yes, Your Honor.
So those four, which are in your data and as presented today and as presented to the Congress, the sum total is what you call capability.
Yes, Your Honor.
And when you degrade the capability by 30%, then
By 70%, meaning the remaining part is 30%, Your Honor.
if you degrade their capability by 70% and their strength is only 30%, what is the term? You have defeated them? What?
We call it that it's that has been brought down to a level of law enforcement, Your Honor.
Which means the General Albayalde
Can take
and
over.
the ILG will take over.
Can take the lead, Your Honor.
Now, but do you have an opinion on whether then martial law should be lifted because you don't need the military anymore?
We will gladly recommend the lifting of martial law if we attain that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now, can I have a second question to the Solgen? Again, may I ask the able staff of the Solgen to show to the Solgen Annex 1 of your OSG comment? I am referring to the undated letter of General Carlito G. Galvez Jr. to the President. There is a portion there, Mr. Solgen, where General Galvez says, and the beginning of the sentence is, the LTG's manpower and firepower have been reduced by
What number, Your Honor?
I think just the ASG Rex can point it to you.
This is number 1, Your Honor, page 3.
Yes, sir. The sentence begins, Mr. Soldian, the LTG's manpower and firepower have been reduced by, do you see that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can I complete now the sentence? It says, the LTG's manpower, meaning the local terrorist groups, the LTG's manpower and firepower have been reduced by 62% and 45% respectively, end of quote. And the letter of General Galvez continues, and I quote, on the other hand, the CTGs, meaning the communist terrorist groups, the NPAs, manpower and firepower have been reduced by 31% and 38%, respectively, end of quote. Do you see that, Mr. Soldian?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, given that the science is supposed to be from the military point of view, degrading it by 70%, in the case of the manpower of the LTGs, the degradation was 62%.
Your Honor, I'd like to clarify. When we were speaking about the 30%, Your Honor, statement of Secretary Lorenzana, I asked them, what is the baseline and what did 30%, when will you impose this? And they said, in this year, Your Honor, if in this year they can reduce the capability to 30% this year, then they will recommend, as you heard from the General, Your Honor.
So Mr. Soldian, the position we would like to know from the government, and please cover it in the memo, if we can agree now, we are looking, the court will be looking to you, what is the baseline? We have to agree. If the baseline is January 1, 2019,
Yes, Your Honor.
if the baseline is January 1, 2019, that is the meaning of what the officers have testified today.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So, I do not know how the court will decide. If the court decides not to grant an extension, then that's the end of it. If the court decides to grant an extension, we have agreed today that you will give us what is the baseline in terms of manpower, in terms of firearms, controlled barangays,
Capability.
and violent incidents, so that by the end of the year, we will know how much progress has been made.
Yes, Your Honor.
We have a deal, Mr. Soldian.
Can we add capability, Your Honor, because that is what
Capability.
what Lorenzana said, Your Honor, capability.
But I thought capability is the sum total of the four.
I will clarify that with them, Your Honor.
Well, because if you add, what I'm saying now, as of today, in your submission to the Congress and your slide today, you don't have a column called capability. Because as the resource person said, and I thought as a layman, the military men testifying, capability is again the sum total of gaano kadami ba yung kalaban,
Yes,
gaano
yes,
yung firearms,
And the support of their...
and how many barangays they control
Yes,
or
Your
they influence.
Correct.
The sum total of which is the capability to have violent incidents. So to me, the four are already four. If you add the four, equals capability.
Okay, Your Honor. I agree.
So we have a deal. That's the
Yes, Your
that's the definition of
Yes.
terms. Now, Mr. Soldian, I would like to congratulate you because earlier we had a session where you were there and the petitioners' counsels were there. And I believe you were able to prevail on your clients to declassify or make public your report to the Congress. And I'm very happy that the Soldier is able to convince his clients. So again, as I said, I don't know whether the court will extend the martial law.
I hope it
But-
will, Your Honor.
Well, when I mean this for this case, but in the event that the court does, I will urge again the government through you to the Soldier to keep following the practice of submitting reports to the Congress, because now we have a baseline. I have my own views about capability, but granting everything that the government has said, I think what we have established today is a baseline. You give us the figures, January 1, 2019, manpower plus firearms plus controlled barangays plus violent equals capability. And I think you have done a great service to the country by saying the report of the military to the Congress is not classified, so that the people will know on a month-to-month basis how much progress the military and the PNP are doing. And I really hope and pray that before December 2019, that the military and the police degrade by more than 70%, so that the members of the court do not have to meet again
Yes,
and have another petition. Thank you very much, Mr.
Yes.
Soldier.
Thank you, Your Honor. And because of the baseline, Your Honor, I assume that this honorable court will extend the martial law. So we can have
I am not
Yes,
binding
Your Honor.
myself on my vote for this particular
because
on
we
this
have a
particular
baseline,
issue.
Your Honor. We have a baseline already.
And
January
also,
1.
Mr. Soldier, I stepped down in September of this year. So just in case you are here next year, I will not be around. But I think I really sincerely appreciate that you took a position today that the report to Congress is not confidential.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that our people will see, and the petitioners' councils are here, they will see and they will track the progress of the military and the police. And I'm sure the esprit de corps of the military and the police will urge them to really do their best so that by the end of the year, they degrade by 70% or more.
Yes, Your Honor. And thank you, Your Honor, for what you have said to me. From one Solicitor General to a former Solicitor General, Your Honor, we uphold the rule of law in the Philippines.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Justice Gesmundo.
Just a few questions to General Lorenzo. One of the bases for your plea to the extension of martial law is this initiated violent incidents by different groups. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
This initiated violent incident, was this submitted to the President in support of the plea for extension of martial law? Was this submitted to the President?
Yes, Your Honor. And the President is briefed periodically about this, Your Honor.
And the same incident reports in support of the plea for extension was submitted to Congress and the Senate?
Yes, Your Honor.
And this both form the basis for the extension requested? Is that correct?
One of the bases.
One of the many bases. Now, let's go
Honor.
to these incident reports. It would appear from this report that they took place at different places in Mindanao. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, who consolidated this report into its present format as presented to the court today?
General Headquarters AFP, Your Honor.
So how do you bet these separate incident reports into this final report as to its accuracy?
At higher headquarters, Your Honor, we received the reports from the different field units. and then we prepare the reports based on these reports.
How soon after the incident is this report made to the General Headquarters?
As soon as the incident happens, Your Honor, a SPAT report is already is sent as soon as possible to higher headquarters through channels.
Is there a process within the military establishment to authenticate these incident reports?
Yes, Your Honor.
How do you go about that?
The reports are submitted by multiple sources within the military, Your Honor.
Within the military. Now, who prepared this consolidated, I will call it consolidated, initiated violent incidents that is annexed to the present comment?
It's the Deputy Chief of Staff for Intelligence, J2 AFP, Your Honor.
So when you said earlier that it was authenticated by certain Senior Master Sergeant Medillo, it simply means what? He authenticated the veracity of the report? Or simply similar to that, he certified that this report is coming from an original copy?
Yes, Your Honor.
So it's not, the Sergeant Medillo did not authenticate what is reported here, is that correct?
Yes, sir, but before he certified on the faithful reproduction of that report from reports already on file, the reports produced at OJ2 has undergone different methods of processing.
So my question is, who
different
collated these separate reports and reduced it into its present format as submitted to the court?
It's at OJ2, Your Honor.
OJ2.
Yes, Your Honor.
So there's no conclusion to be made that Sergeant Junicio Medillo prepared all this stuff?
No, sir. He is but one of the functionaries in the office that keeps those records within
So,
OJ2.
Just to be clarified, when you mentioned authenticated by SMS Medillo, what do you mean by that?
Just
Did
the
he verify it? Its incident report from an index or what?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because,
It's a faithful reproduction of
You want
what
the
is
court to
already on file.
rely on this report as the factual basis for the prayer for the extension of martial law? We want to be assured that this is authenticated. You may have the presumption of regularity, but we want to know the authenticity and veracity of these incident reports.
Sir, it's all, those reports came from the chain of command, Your Honor.
Can you put that in your
The-
memorandum also, how this report was processed?
We will do that, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Justice Leonin.
The Solicitor General, please. Yes. I ask for the Solicitor General because I know that you are the most knowledgeable in with your side. Yes, okay. When did government arrive at the 30% target that you discussed with Justice Hardelesa?
Actually, I just read it this afternoon, Your Honor.
So you just arrived at the goal of martial law, 30% degrading only this afternoon.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you are now binding the commander-in-chief. In other words, you
Well-
just discussed it here in caucus.
Yes, Your Honor.
And now
Yes.
you committed to court a degradation of 70% as the goal of martial law
For this year, Your Honor.
for this year.
Yes.
And this is the position of government, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you binding President Rodrigo Duterte, the commander-in-chief? Because I do not see him here. And if you arrive at the target only now, that means you are binding the president.
I will explain to him what happened here, and I will revert to you, Your Honor.
But I think you know the president more than I do. He has his own mind. Is that not correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
He has his own goals. Is that not correct?
That's correct, Your
And
Honor.
as far as all of you are concerned, you are all alter egos, advisors to the president. Is that not correct?
That's correct, Your
And
Honor.
therefore, you cannot commit to this court 30%, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, because it came from the military group, Your Honor.
More importantly, this 30%, was it discussed with Congress?
I was not present there, Your Honor, so
In other
I have
words,
no
it
idea.
was not, it was in one of the statements of Lorenzana, the secretary, but Congress did not push and ask the resource speakers what was the goal of 1 year. Is that not correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Yes. So it's possible to have an extension for 2020. Is that not correct? Still possible.
Yes, Your Honor.
Perhaps even 2021, correct?
That's possible, Your Honor.
Perhaps 2022, correct?
Hopefully, yes.
So this
Yes,
is
Your
the
Honor.
new normal, that for the whole term of this president, there will be martial law in Mindanao. Is that not possible? Considering
Well-
that the Communist Party has been resilient for 50 years. I was only 6 years old when they started. Now I'm 56. Considering that violent extremism will exist in Mindanao in the next 3 years, considering that there will still be kidnapping, considering that there will still be rido, and those are all in your reports. Therefore, are you now telling the Supreme Court that it is possible that the extensions will be not only 3, could be 4, 5, or 6 extensions?
Well, it depends, Your Honor, if that policy of 30% degradation, which will start this year, if we can attain it, why not, Your Honor?
Yes, but it is not the goal of the Commander-in-Chief, correct? Not yet.
Well, I cannot predict the future, Your Honor.
Okay. All intelligence reports and conclusions are validated. Is that not correct?
According to the military,
yes.
yes, Your Honor.
When presented to the Commander-in-Chief, it is validated specially. Is that not correct? Because it's the Commander-in-Chief. He has to act with very specific validated information. Is that not
Well,
correct?
I have no personal knowledge on that, Your Honor, but I trust our military,
And
Your Honor.
when it is presented to Congress on a matter as significant as martial law, it is likewise validated. Is that not correct?
It should be validated,
Yes.
Your Honor.
Now, how do you explain the inconsistencies, the incomplete statements, the inclusion of rido and kidnapping in the report that was just submitted to the highest court of the land to support the extension of martial law?
I think, Your Honor, that was corrected by them. Maybe there were some clerical errors.
It was not clerical.
To err is human, Your Honor.
Human. We went through a lot of the submissions, and it was shown that you attributed arson, you attributed a feud, you attributed kidnapping to rebellion. Is that not correct?
I have not read also that, Your Honor, the one that was given to
The submission.
Congress.
Okay. So therefore,
But I was given now the correct data, Your Honor.
in that
And
piece of
this will be
paper,
submitted and explained in our memorandum, Your Honor.
is this the same submission that you gave to Congress? The ones that you gave to the Supreme Court?
Earlier, Your Honor, you
Yes.
mean? Well, to be candid, Your Honor, I was not able to read all the statistics, Your Honor. I was concentrating on the arguments.
So it's possible that what was given to Congress is different from what was given to us.
I really do not know, Your Honor.
In fact, I am 100% sure because General Lorenzo just manifested to us that the PowerPoint presentation that he gave is more detailed than what he submitted to us, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, and because Congress came before us, it is entirely possible that what was given to Congress was different. Is that not correct?
That's possible, Your Honor, but
Yes.
I have no personal knowledge on
So,
that.
sufficiency of factual basis must require some level of credibility and consistency. Is that not correct, Mr. Solgen?
Yes, but it has been rectified, Your Honor.
Yes. Consistency and credibility. You agree with me?
Yes, Your Honor.
That
That's
goes
the ideal,
into the
Your Honor.
sufficiency
That's the
of the
ideal.
factual basis. Okay. A while ago, it was mentioned that the time that martial law will be lifted is when threat groups will no longer impose their will on the people. This is General Lorenzo. Is that not correct?
In the,
Yes, during the presentation.
yes, Your Honor.
He said, in response to a question of Justice Kagiwa, rebellion will no longer exist when the threat groups no longer impose their will on the people. Is that not correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So we are saying that in barangays in Mindanao, the entire of Mindanao, threat groups have imposed their will on the people.
In those that were indicated, Your Honor, by the military,
In all the barangays that you mentioned.
all barangays, Your Honor.
All barangays, including Maguindanao, where I saw the SPMS box, I saw the different municipalities there. I've been there, and you are saying that in all of these places, threat groups have imposed their will on the people.
Again, I have no personal knowledge on that, Your Honor.
Okay. Is it the position of government that the entire Abu Sayyaf coalition or group are all rebels?
The way they're acting, they're not only rebels, they're also terrorists, Your Honor.
No, we're only looking at rebellion because terrorism would be different, correct? So are they all rebels? All the factions? How many factions within the Abu Sayyaf group, Mr. Solgen?
I think there are at least 3 factions,
Yes.
Your Honor.
Cover that in your memoranda. And my question is it the government's position that all the Abu Sayyaf are rebels? I mean, you're giving them a stature because from maybe some point of view, some of them are really criminals. They just do kidnapping, and that's all. In the name of a pseudo-religion, which is not even Islam, in any case. Is it the position of the government that all factions and members of the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters are now affiliated with the DI?
Well, that is that's
All
what I
factions of the
I
BIFF.
gathered, Your Honor, yes.
All factions of the BIFF.
Personally, I have no knowledge of that, but I believe so, Your
Please
Honor.
cover that because in my dissenting opinion in the last martial law case, I did point out that there was a lack of detail that was presented to the court and to Congress in relation to these groups. They were all lumped together and made to appear as if all of them carried the same ideology. BIFF, especially Mr. Solgen, I am familiar with them, correct? For example,
Honor.
would you know where Turaife comes from? Where
Maybe
he
I-
came from?
Can I ask my clients, Your Honor? Because they
The
know
BIFF,
better than me.
correct? And he pulled out of the BIFF, created his own group. Is that not correct? Anyway, you can ask your clients. Okay. There were 12 monthly reports that were given to us. Were these also furnished to the Senate?
I think so, Your Honor.
But the addressee in the 12 monthly reports is only the Speaker of the House. Was the Senate also provided with the 12 periodic reports?
I think so, Your Honor.
So-
Both houses.
Both houses.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tab A, Tab B, until all the tabs.
Uh,
JKL.
Can I consult
Yes.
my clients,
Can you
Your
look
Honor?
at Tab A? Please, please.
Okay. Your Honor.
Yes.
I was informed that they submitted 3 copies, one for the President, one for the House of Representatives, and one for the Senate, Your Honor.
I noticed that in the submissions given to us, there was no receiving stamp. Was
No
there?
receiving stamp.
In other words, when exactly did you give Congress a copy of these reports?
Can I ask them, Your
Yes.
Honor? Your Honor,
Yes.
I was shown an official receipt for communication, which is separate from the letter, Your Honor. It says here, and I will read, this is a sample. To Senator Aquilino Pimentel, Senate President, the undersigned acknowledged receipt of the following documents. And then subject, then there's a tracking, approved for release, received by, and date, time received.
What is the date there?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is the date there?
This is a sample of a official receipt for communication. Date, time received is March 14, 2018, Your Honor.
Okay. Since Congress is your client, Mr. Solgen, can I ask for a certified through a certification of when the House and the Senate actually received copies of these periodic reports?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because in the transcript, there were several members of the House which were asking for the periodic reports. Okay.
I will, Your Honor.
Yes, can we continue? In your submitted opening statement, you mentioned that the Abu Sayyaf group has 424 members and 473 firearms. Is this not correct?
Your Honor, you mentioned about,
Abu Sayyaf group, 424 members,
yes, Your Honor.
138 barangays.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, Zamboanga. Present in 138 barangays. Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, Zamboanga.
Is it on the same page, Your Honor, or another page? Page 5. Okay. Okay. Yes, Your Honor.
138 barangays. They are present there.
138 barangays.
Yes. So if I divide 424 by 138, there must be 3.07 rebels for each barangay.
Well,
And we
if you say
declare
so, Your
martial
Honor.
law because there are 3 rebels in each barangay. By the way, did we deploy or did government deploy a whole division to Sulu? Recently. The 11th division, correct?
Your Honor, this data came from the military, and we
Yes.
just put it in our comment, Your Honor.
Okay. How many men are in one battalion, more or less?
was informed, Your Honor, that on the average is about around 400.
400 in one battalion.
Yes, Your Honor.
In your opening statement, you quote Joma Sison, where he claims that 75 maneuver battalions are found in Mindanao. Is that not correct?
Page 7. Well, this is the statement of Jose Maria Sison, Your Honor.
Which you quoted in order to justify.
He said that 75 of the total 98 maneuver battalions of the reactionary armed forces
Yes.
are concentrated in Mindanao, etc.
Okay. Now,
And, there's a quotation here, Your
yes,
Honor.
Mr. Solgen, I just want to point this out. I will not ask you the exact number because that's classified. But if this is the ballpark figure, there are about 30,000 army in Mindanao, more or less. And these are infantry. We are not counting, I will not even ask you the amount of armor that has been transferred to Mindanao in order to quell this insurgency. Now, there are 575 only of the Abu Sayyaf, BIFF, and DI, 575, ranged against very qualified professional soldiers. I know of many of the generals, some of them sitting behind you. I know their level of command and their level of leadership. Now, do you need martial law in order to get 575 of these Abu Sayyaf, BIFF, and Dawa Islamiyah? Is it not sufficient that we have the government has deployed its military and called out the armed forces? In
Well,
other words, doesn't public safety necessity only require that we call out the armed forces?
Your Honor, the number 75 of the total of 98 maneuver battalions is we quoted what Jose Maria Sison said in his article, Your Honor. This did not come from the military. So I don't know where he got these numbers, Your Honor.
Yes. But my question remains, and perhaps just cover that in your memoranda to save us some time. Okay. The CPP-NPA is a nationwide movement, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
CPP-NPA.
They've been waging a war
Yes.
since.
So if you're trying to get the CPP-NPA in Mindanao through martial law, correct? They can always transfer to Visayas or Luzon, correct?
Probably, but that,
Yes.
according to the military, about 50% of their strength is in Mindanao, Your Honor.
Yes, but martial law is not declared in Luzon and Visayas. So they can always transfer, correct?
I cannot guess what their intentions are, Your Honor.
Yes, because if you hit one side, they can always move to the other, correct?
Well, that is a possibility, Your Honor.
Okay. Perhaps, well, my last question. In your statement, you said that there is no longer the intention to create a caliphate, but instead to join a global insurgency. What does this exactly mean?
I think with the debacle that the ISIS suffered in Syria, Your Honor, they have lost territory. So they want to, instead of Syria and the nearby Islamic states, they would rather go global, meaning to say not only in the Middle East, but also in Asia and other parts of this world, Your Honor.
Yes, I am sure that there can be more technical explanation to this. And may I request that you also cover an explanation of that statement and how it relates to the existing state of rebellion in Mindanao.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor General.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Justice Reyes.
Thank you, Chief. I have simple questions to our Solicitor General. What is the problem that we are trying to solve here?
Come
Very
again.
simple. What is the problem that we are trying to solve? The problem that is confronting us. What is the problem? Or maybe the issue that we are trying to solve here?
Well, the issue that we are trying to solve here, Your Honor, is the state of rebellion in Mindanao and the public safety, Your Honor.
All right. Now, this being the perceived problem, what solution or solutions are being offered by you, by the government? Because you represent the government. So
Yes, Your Honor.
there is a problem. So let's set aside the problem. Let's come up with solutions.
The first
So the
solution,
solution
Your-
is martial law.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Apart from martial law, do you offer any other solution to the problem? I mean,
Well,
are there other ways?
Your Honor, I'm from Mindanao also, and I know what's happening there. The problem there is the existence of these rebellious and terrorist groups.
You are referring to the communist terrorist groups, the
Yes, Your
local
Honor.
terrorist groups, all right?
Yes.
So I have spoken also to a lot of judges, lawyers in Mindanao, see, and they have presented to me the situation based on their accounts. So my question really is, what's the best solution? Meaning,
Well, we have to tackle first these rebellious groups and terrorist groups, Your Honor, because they're the one causing trouble in Mindanao. And once they are, once there is peace, Your Honor, then Mindanao is the land of promise, and the promises will be fulfilled, Your Honor.
yeah, but how do we achieve peace? Through martial law?
Yes, Your Honor, because they are rebellious and terrorist groups. And therefore, we have to quell their rebellion first.
Yeah, but Mr. Soljan, is that the only solution?
Well, there are many solutions, Your Honor. There are many economic solutions.
Economic?
Yes, but the thing is...
Then perhaps, Mr. Soljan, not just economic, but maybe religious solution. Do
Yeah.
our soldiers pray?
Well, you're right, Your Honor. There are many possible
pray?
solutions.
Because you mentioned earlier that there are terrorists, no? Well, here we have our rebels. We have terrorists here as well. Terrorism is a global problem. We have persecuted Christians in the Middle East. A lot of people had been praying. The problem seems to be escalating. And as you said, it has gone to Asia.
Yes.
So my point here is on the maybe on the lighter side, aside from economic solution, then perhaps we should start to pray.
Well,
Maybe we have forgotten to pray.
yes, Your Honor.
Then tell the soldiers to start praying. No, I'm serious about this. Because our bishops in Mindanao are crying for peace. You see, just recently, a church was bombed, right? And they're all been praying. The Archbishop of Manila has urged all churches to pray.
Yes,
So
Your
I
Honor.
hope it's high time that our soldiers should start to pray. Then perhaps our terrorists will follow suit. Now, Mr. Soljan, I hope you'll take that seriously,
Yes, Your
meaning
Honor.
that serious.
Yes, Your Honor, because I believe in the efficacy and power of prayer. Your Honor.
Precisely. Now, how strong, on a scale, because we've been talking about figures earlier, on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong are these groups combined? Meaning the communist terrorists, the local terrorists, all together combined on a scale of 1 to 10. How strong is this combined group?
I cannot hazard a guess, Your Honor. Perhaps the military knows better than me
Then
on that.
perhaps we can ask them, Mr. Soldier. You can
Okay,
confer with them and just give us a tentative figure gaano ho sila kalakas, so that we need to have martial law.
Your Honor,
Yes, Soldier.
as y- as you suggested, Your Honor, I talked with them. It's not easy for them to quantify because, first of all, what we are facing there is not a conventional war.
Okay.
It is a guerrilla war with respect to the communists and the other groups, the Daesh-inspired groups. They are even fiercer, Your Honor. And so we cannot really come up with a figure from 1
From
to
1 to
10, Your
10.
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
But
Because
I'm
every day there are incidents, Your Honor.
But I'm sure the military is trying its best,
Yes, Your Honor.
with all its combined forces, to try to neutralize.
Yes.
But if the military can neutralize these groups, is there a need for martial law to be proclaimed,
Well, at this point in time, there's really a need, Your Honor.
considering
In
the
fact, with
factual?
the recent bombing in Holo, there are reports that one was a suicide bomber, meaning to say the bomb was strapped in the body of that person, Your Honor.
Yes, we saw that and we read that from the papers, Mr. Soljan. So the military cannot come up with a tentative determination of the strength of the combined forces. But definitely, these combined forces, the group is really strong because there is
Yes,
a
Your
need.
Honor. Yeah, you're correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, how long has this violent undertakings of the groups, rebellious or terrorist groups, had been going on? Do you have any idea?
With respect to the communist terrorist group, they have been at it for 50 years, Your Honor.
50 years. So even before the term of President Duterte.
Yes, Your Honor.
But it's only now that we start to wake up and declare martial law in Mindanao. So there is really a need.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right. Okay. So, well, I think that's about all, Mr. Soljan. I do hope that our military, even if it cannot as yet determine the strong or the strength of these terroristic or rebellious groups, the military will continue to try to neutralize the activities of these groups. Thank you, Soljan.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's all.
Justice Hernando.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice, for letting me speak. My first in the next 18 years. You're also a general, Solicitor General Calida, but I would want my question to be directed at the Chief of Staff, General Madrigal. I'm jumping off from what Justice Hardelesa has started from, and this is on the basis of the statement of Secretary Lorenzana before Congress that there is a need to at least degrade the extent of combat that's taking place to 30% before PNP as a law enforcement agency can come into the picture. I just want to ask this just for my perspective to be validated. I think that 30% degradation is from the viewpoint of a war that is asymmetric, because what government is waging against these rebels is not a general or conventional war. Rather, it's an asymmetric war. And that is because we have a standing army that numbers 98,000 as of last count, with 120,000 as reservists. And when we compare that number to the rebels, I'm very sure that their number is very much less than that. And which is why I say that what government is waging against these rebels is an asymmetric war, not a symmetrical or conventional war. So that 30%, General Madrigal, is from the perspective of an asymmetric war.
Your Honor, that's why we have included as part of the parameters the level of influence, especially on the affected barangays, because the number we are referring to, the 1,600 or so regulars, are still supported by the support system. We call it the underground mass organization. They call it the sangay ng partido sa lokalidad, or the party members in the locality, and the militiang bayan, or the armed militias in the barangay. So these are all part of the overall enemy capability as far as CPP-MPA that we are addressing, not only the regular armed groups, but also the support system. In fact, we focus so much on the support system because in the firm belief that it will be very easy to address armed groups if they do not have the support of the community. And so, considering that this is an asymmetric warfare, the battle here is the battle for the hearts and minds of the communities.
All right.
So, aside from
It's not just force that you're using against these rebels. Well, it's not just military force. You go beyond that. As you said, you're trying to win the hearts of the people. Apart from the military force that you're employing against
apart from
rebels.
the regular armed groups here, the support elements we're also addressing, Your Honor.
All right. And that comes, the military operations that you're now undertaking against the rebels would necessarily flow from a martial law perspective. You would need martial law to address all these things, employing military force and then winning the hearts and minds of the people.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, And this is supported by the recent proclamation of the creation of the National Task Force, where we need to also harness the support of the local government and the other agencies to be able to come up with what we call or put flesh to what we call the whole of government and the whole of nation approach to the problem, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, General. And on the end of the rebels, what they're waging against government really is a maneuver war, isn't it? Because they're employing tactics from packets in the island of Mindanao,
aside from,
which is what you would want to quell.
Yes, Your Honor. And aside from that, of course, to be able to secure the communities, the conduct of checkpoints, so that we will be able to limit the movements of this armed group, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, General. I don't have any more questions, Mr. Chief Justice. Thank you.
Justice Carpio.
Can I ask questions from the Soldier, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Solgen, is there an ongoing armed rebellion today in Davao City?
In certain parts, Your Honor, there is.
Committed by whom?
I understand the communist groups, Your Honor.
So, NPA.
NPA.
Certainly not the MILF.
Uh,
We have a peace agreement.
I have not been to Davao for quite some time, Your Honor, so I don't know the exact.
But you are aware that we have a peace agreement now with the MILF? I don't think they are
MILF?
breaking.
Yes, Your Honor.
So the rebellion in Davao, parts of Davao, as you say, is being committed by the NPA, correct?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, yes, Your Honor.
But not by the MILF, correct?
Not by the MN or MI.
MI, not by the
MI.
MILF.
Not to my knowledge, Your Honor.
Well, we have a peace agreement. I don't think they have broken that. Not by the Maote ISIS group. They're not in Davao.
I'm not sure of that, Your Honor.
But do you know that they have armed rebels there operating in Davao City?
That is a possibility because Davao City is a huge city. In fact,
But do you have
there was-
any information that they are operating in Davao City? Have they
I have
engaged
no-
in any skirmish with the military or police in Davao City?
I have no personal knowledge at this time, but I can research, Your Honor.
Okay, you include that in your memo. How about the BIFF? Are they committing rebellion in Davao City?
I'm not sure, Your Honor.
So you're only sure of the NPA.
For now, yes, Your Honor. But I will ask the military, Your Honor, and the police to update me if there are incidents like what you have mentioned, Your Honor.
So, okay, so but you are defending martial law throughout Mindanao, but you are not sure if the Maote and the ISIS group are operating in Davao City.
Well, at this time, I don't have the knowledge, but I will try to get
Okay. Let's go to
feedback, Your
Marawi
Honor.
City Council. Have you been to Ground Zero in Marawi City?
I haven't been there, Your Honor.
I was there last August 2018 with the judges when we inaugurated the refurbished Hall of Justice. And we visited Ground Zero and we learned that the residents of Ground Zero cannot go back anymore. Are they allowed to go back now?
I
To
have
their
no personal
homes?
knowledge on that, Your Honor. I haven't been there.
Are you aware of what's happening to the land issue? Because the land that they occupied in Ground Zero remains up to today a military reservation. And there is talk that the land will not be returned to them. So you have a large group of people here whose parents, grandparents were born in their houses in Ground Zero. They were born there, but they are now being deprived of their land. And this large group of people will be very susceptible to propaganda and influence by the ISIS Maote group. And we may have another rebellion if they are deprived of their land. You know how it feels when somebody takes the land of your ancestors, where you were also born. So what is the position of the government on this?
Well, personally, Your Honor, I have no knowledge of that.
You have no knowledge of
Yes,
that?
Your Honor.
Because this is another source. This could be a ground for new rebels to join the ISIS group. Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Justice Peralta.
Just few questions now. Mr. Solicitor General, there are three essential elements of rebellion. One is public uprising, the other one is taking up arms, the government, and then the motive, which is political. May I ask you, where is that public uprising taking place in Mindanao? Where is the public uprising that is
In
now taking
several
place in Mindanao?
places in Mindanao,
in
Your
several
Honor.
cases.
Yes.
What about the taking up arms?
I do not know the precise places, but I can ask my clients, Your Honor.
Now, there are some acts that were mentioned by General Lorenzo, which he said these are acts that constitute rebellion.
Yes, Your Honor.
Like, for example, harassment, right? Harassment, arson, robbery, kidnapping. Are these essential elements of rebellion? Harassment, kidnapping, robbery, and also other acts like extortion and even kidnapping. Are these acts part of rebellion?
Well, they may be
Yeah.
akin to that if there are terrorists who are involved here, Your Honor.
But would you consider this as acts in furtherance of rebellion in order to achieve the purpose of these armed groups? Do you think that would these acts in furtherance of rebellion in order to achieve the purpose of rebellion?
Well, that is possible, Your Honor.
Now, from the presentation of General Lorenzo, these study groups acts took place in different places in Mindanao which are Muslim dominated.
Yes, Your Honor.
Like, I think he mentioned about Hulu, Sulu, Lanao, and all these places where there are Muslims, right? Did I get him correctly? Yes?
That's what he said, Your Honor.
Yeah. But there are places that he mentioned where there are no terrorist acts. I never heard him saying that there were acts committed in Surigao, in Misamis Oriental, Misamis Occidental, except those places that he mentions, as I said, predominantly populated by Muslims. Would you think that it will be still necessary for the president to declare martial law in the whole of Mindanao, considering that even in the presentation before Congress and DUAS, that these acts were committed not all in the provinces or places in Mindanao. In other words, most of the acts were committed somewhere in those places were dominated by Muslims.
Yes, Your Honor, but the problem here is
What would be the
that they can move from one place to another, Your Honor.
Is that be sufficient reason to declare the whole Mindanao because they will be moving from one place to the other?
Well, Your Honor, that's also the desire of the people in Mindanao. That
Or we would be that they want to take allegiance of the whole part of Mindanao, not only a portion or not only of a few provinces of Mindanao. Would that be also correct to assume?
That would be quite difficult, Your
That,
Honor, because the
because
rebels will go to a place where there is no martial
so
law.
in other words, their motivation is that to take away allegiance, not only a portion of Mindanao, but the whole island of Mindanao. so that even if the acts are committed in different places, but all of the places of Mindanao, because one of the purposes of rebellion is to take away the allegiance of any
Yes, Your
part
Honor. Correct.
or the whole of the Philippines, then that would be still be rebellion.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you still have to establish that the element of taking of arms should have taken place in those places.
Well, yes, Your Honor, but as I said, this is not a conventional war. This is guerrilla warfare, Your Honor, and aggravated by the terrorists' tactics, Your Honor,
Yeah. Now,
like bombing churches, bombing markets, and bombing stores, etc.
now what is the purpose, or what would the NPA, the rebels, would like to achieve from taking up arms against the government? They want to change or take away the sovereignty of the country and then change it with their own?
Yes,
Is
Your
that the
Honor.
purpose of the NPA?
Yes, Your Honor.
What about the BIF or the Muslim terrorists? What is their purpose?
They also have an
huh?
ideological
Ideological.
reasons, Your Honor.
When you say ideological, that would be covered by taking away the allegiance,
Yes, Your Honor.
or,
So that
or limiting the power of the president to exercise his prerogative.
yes, Your Honor.
That will be included.
And Congress also, because they will have their own laws.
So, in other words, there are two motivations. One is to take away the allegiance. The other one is to limit or to prevent the chief executive or Congress from exercising their prerogative
Yes,
under
Your
the
Honor.
law and under the Constitution.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor General.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Justice Bernabe?
Meron pa ba?
Can I call the counsel for the petitioner, Congressman Lachman? I think Justice Rory has questions also for. Okay, mamaya. Okay, Congressman. Okay.
My question will be, okay.
Does Section 18, Article 7 of the Constitution require that the actual rebellion or invasion be conducted by the same group or entity in order to justify an extension? You may go over Section 18.
Your Honor, Section 18 does not provide for those who are perpetrators of rebellion or invasion. There is no identification as to perpetrators. But I would like to underscore that Section 18 of Article 7 is a litany of limitations, restrictions, as well as time frames with respect to the declaration of martial law and the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. In this section, even the Supreme Court, this honorable court, is mandated to resolve a petition filed by a citizen on the sufficiency of factual basis of the declaration of martial law, suspension of the writ or its extension within 30 days. So these are all re-enumerated. I could enumerate the provisions specifically on time constraints with respect to the declaration of martial law. The general intent really is to delimit not only the grounds for martial law, but the duration of martial law, suspension of the writ, as well as its extension.
So you do not agree that an extension of martial law may be made for as long as there is an existing rebellion or invasion, regardless of what group or entity is responsible?
Well, Your Honor, it is our contention
that the third extension of martial law has no sufficient factual basis and constitutional basis because there is actually no rebellion existing or persisting in Mindanao.
All right, now this is my final question. Respondents reference the December 8, 2017 letter of the President, which stated that despite the death of Hapilon and the Maute brothers, the remnants of their groups have continued to rebuild their organization. Do you have any evidence to rebut the veracity of this claim or any of their claims?
Well, in the first place, Your Honor, consistent with the decision of this Honorable Court in Lachman versus Pedaldea, the burden of proof on the sufficiency of the factual basis of the declaration of martial law, suspension of the writ, or extension is on the President or the Executive. So it is for the Executive or the President to prove that there is factual basis for the extension, for the third extension of martial law. And we submit, Your Honor, that the President has failed to discharge that burden of proof. No less than the President, in his letter to the Congress, dated December 6, 2018, said that all of his alleged justifications were in mere general terms. That is why he undertook to submit to Congress a more detailed report, which eventually he failed to submit.
Now, should not the factual data presented by the government be accorded the presumption of regularity in the absence of any evidence to rebut the same?
Your Honor, we respectfully submit that under the specific and special jurisdiction of this Honorable Court, to determine the sufficiency of the factual basis of martial law, it is contradictory to such jurisdiction to make a presumption of regularity or good faith, because such presumption will enfeeble the jurisdiction of this court to make an independent, separate, impartial inquiry into the factual basis of the declaration of martial law, the extension of the writ, of the suspension of the writ, or its extension.
Thank you, Congressman. That
Thank
would
you,
be
Your
all,
Honor.
Chief.
Justice Karandang. Yes, sir.
I have two questions to the Solicitor General, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
First, can we validate the news going around that ISIS is really trying to maintain their center in Mindanao, not in Malaysia, not in Indonesia? Can we validate that or give some information about that?
Yes,
ISIS.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, ISIS already admitted its complicity in the Holo bombing, Your Honor.
They have declared that they're wanting to make Mindanao the center of ISIS in Southeast Asia.
Well, I think that forms part of their plan, Your Honor, for global. They want to control not only the Middle East countries, but they want to spread up to the Southeast Asia, Your Honor. And Mindanao seems to be their target, Your Honor.
Why would Mindanao be their target?
Well,
Would you have an information about it?
I can ask my client, Your Honor, from the intelligence. If you wish, I can talk to them right now, Your Honor.
You can ask your client, Mr. Solicitor General. Narinig ko lang talaga yun. Not in Malaysia, not in Indonesia, but they want to spread. Why Mindanao?
Your Honor. According to my clients, Your Honor, there is really a plan of the IS to establish their control in East Asia with the Philippines as its epicenter, Your Honor. And some of the reasons why Mindanao was chosen to be the epicenter of this ISIS or Daesh is because, number one, about 23 factions referring to the Moros, Your Honor, pledged allegiance to the IS. And probably also the geography, Your Honor, of Mindanao. There are many, they can easily penetrate Mindanao through Sabah, Indonesia, etc., Your Honor. So I think you're right, Your Honor.
My second question, Mr. Solicitor General, is this. Is the actual number of, say, rebels in the area the determining factor only of their strength or capability in the area, or there are other invisibles?
Your Honor, I talked with Secretary Anyo, and he asked me if it is possible that he will explain the nitty-gritty, Your Honor, because he knows what's happening there, Your Honor. With your permission, can I ask him to come here, Your Honor?
Thank you, Your Honor. As early as 2016, June 2016, there are already several groups that pledged allegiance to the ISIS. But there are certain conditions imposed by the ISIS to recognize a Dawla Islamiyah, and one of them is there must be one total organization with one leader, and with Hapilon as the leader and establishing a base in Lanao del Sur, the IS Mindanao was established and affiliated with the global ISIS, whose center is in Syria. And this group has also its what you call mass-based supporters. And through media, they're able to recruit young Muslims in order to join the cause. That is why this fight is not about just reducing them or eliminating them by military means, but there are a total government approach or whole of nation approach to be able to eliminate them. And fighting them in Mindanao requires this martial law so that we can be able to restrict the movement of these armed groups from going to one place to another. The Marawi crisis happened because it so happened that the Maute group has established a very strong base in Lanao del Sur. So the group of Papilon went to Marawi to occupy Marawi City. But it could also happen in other cities of Mindanao, like, for example, Cotabato City or Basilan. So we ended the Marawi crisis, but still we have to anticipate that this group, until fully eliminated, will continue to espouse and do their terroristic attack and probably choose another city in Mindanao to occupy, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Justice Leonin.
May I call the counsel for the fourth petition? The fourth in the order. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Just short questions to clarify some points. Sufficiency of factual basis, which is a requirement in Section 18, requires at least that the evidence is credible, consistent, and complete. Would you agree with me?
Yes, Your Honor.
And to be credible means that the sources of information are transparent to the court and that the validation process is airtight.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And that when it is shown that the submission to this court is incomplete, inconsistent, or unrelated to the subject matter at hand, that is the existence of rebellion or invasion, then there is no presumption of regularity of government functions. Is that not correct?
I would agree with that, Your Honor.
Would you agree with me that in Section 18 of Article 7, the requirement for a declaration of martial law or the suspension of a writ of habeas corpus is not only that rebellion exists, but there is a certain degree of rebellion that requires the exigency of martial law. Is that not correct?
Yes, Your Honor, and that
And that-
rebellion is ongoing.
Yes, prior to the declaration of martial law, if it is only lawless violence that happens or an aggregation of lawless violence, that the military is not prohibited from calling out the armed forces. Is that not correct?
That is true, Your Honor.
And would you agree with me that the degree of judicial review or the scrutiny that is involved when the President as Commander-in-Chief calls out the armed forces is less than when he declares martial law?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Battle of Hearts and Minds, I've heard it so often. Do you recall where it came from?
I don't see, I think that came
In
around
Vietnam by a certain Colonel Lansdale when
sir.
he inaugurated the concept of anti-insurgency and tested it using an occupying force because they were losing the war against the Viet Cong. Am I not correct?
Yes, Your
Perhaps. Now, this requires that winning hearts and minds is not only done by the military. That was the mistake in Vietnam, correct? That it
Yes.
requires the cooperation of the military and the civilian authority. Is that not correct?
That's true.
Yes. As a matter of fact, several military plans, I think this was under AFP General Anyo, AFP General Bautista, among others, created the concept of a balikatan or whole-of-nation approach, where it was recognized that winning the war will not only take the military, but will also take civilian authority. Is that not correct?
I think it's obvious that military action alone will not be sufficient, Your
Yes.
Honor.
By a protracted declaration of martial law, which means the military rules, regardless of whether or not it is benign, there is an implicit message that local governments cannot do it. Is that not correct?
That is the case,
And
yes.
the danger there is recognized by our Constitution because therefore it said that martial law is only exigent and contingent. Is that not correct?
I think it's clear, Your Honor, that the martial law is really intended to be a temporary to address an emergency
And to
only.
win against 1,600 communists and 575, I will not even say Muslim, I will say Salafist, I will say violent extremists, will take not only the might of the military, no matter how professional they are, but good governance. Is that not correct?
That is so true, Your Honor. No,
And
no
martial
amount-
law is antithetical to good governance. Is that not correct?
That is the case, Your Honor.
Because we do not give an opportunity to civilian authorities to catch up. Is that not correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, may I ask you, can checkpoints be set up without martial law?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can buses be searched without martial law?
Yes, Your Honor.
Saluday versus People, under the ponensya of Justice Carpio, unanimous court said it can. Very recently, 2018 only. Can the attendance of LGUs be checked without martial law?
Of course. Yes, Your
In
Honor.
fact, will the local governments in the ARMM be more fearful and attend to their duties if it is ordered by the President himself rather than simply the military?
Yes, I believe
Who
so.
is more feared, the President or the military?
I'm not sure, Your Honor.
Well, I guess people will say the Commander-in-Chief is more powerful than the military. So what we need really is a serious program to counter violent extremism, as well as a serious program to build good governance rather than martial law. Is that not correct?
That is true, Your Honor.
Because no matter the numbers of fighting forces and firearms, it will always recur if the root cause are not addressed. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Yes. Counsel, do you recall whether or not drug reduction or drug trafficking was a target for martial law?
There was some statement made by the government in that respect, Your
Is it
Honor.
in Proclamation 216?
I
It is
believe
not.
it is mentioned in one of the paragraphs.
Yes, but it just says the Maute and the Marawi conflagration, and I think Justice Bernabe said, and other rebel groups, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. And I noticed that in the reports given to Congress, every month there was a report on what happens to drug reduction. Is that not correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, okay. Just to be clear, this court is not concerned about whether or not people pray, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
This court is concerned whether or not an act of government is consistent with the secular constitution. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Therefore, whether or not the military prays is not relevant to this forum. Is that not correct?
Well, the legal questions are what this court will resolve, Your Honor.
Yes. When we try to find out whether there are acts in furtherance of rebellion, we have to be sure that it is not only an aggravation of lawless violence attributed carelessly to rebellion, but we must make sure that every act is related to rebellion. Is that not correct?
That is the duty
Because
of the court.
that is the requirement of the highest court of the land, looking at its duties seriously to look at the sufficiency of the factual basis. Is that not correct?
That is true, Your Honor.
Yes. Can I just ask one question from from Congressman Lachman? Thank you,
Okay, Your
Counsel.
Honor.
Congressman, you saw the reports that were given to you. Were you furnished those reports at the time that Congress was deliberating the extension of martial law?
Your Honor, with respect to the monthly reports, I just saw those reports this afternoon, and I am not aware whether any member of the House had been furnished copies of those reports. But
Thank
I would like to underscore that in those reports, there is nothing mentioned there of any individual or person apprehended, arrested, or charged with rebellion in any court.
Thank you.
Justice Hardalesa.
Thank you, Chief. May I ask Attorney Teddy Te? Just one question.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening. The petition of the fourth petitioners is one of, correct me, certiorari and prohibition?
No, Your Honor. It is brought under precisely Article 7, Section 18, Your Honor. Although it does contain a request for injunction because it refers to specific acts that are being
Yes.
undertaken.
Now, tell me, why should not the court peremptorily dismiss your complaint, which is Section 18, because the authority of this court under Section 18 is limited to determining or reviewing the sufficiency of the factual basis of the declaration of martial law or any extension. Having read your petition, you are complaining about an effect of martial law. Essentially, you are saying because of martial law, there is impunity and your clients have been harmed. In fact, isn't it true that with respect to the same incidents about alleged red tagging of the minority groups, certain individuals already went to the RTC, I believe, of Davao, and then on an habeas corpus, they have been freed. So this court, I'm saying, has no jurisdiction to hear or go into the affidavits that you have submitted to the court. Indeed, if there are violations of human rights, I agree, go after the perpetrators, but this court is not your forum.
Well, Your Honor, as far as the specific allegations of fact, Your Honor, contained in the affidavits of at least the four petitioners in the fourth petition, Your Honor, we do believe that while the court may just look at the sufficiency of the factual basis for martial law, the court may also inquire as to whether or not Congress actually exercised its powers to review the sufficiency of the factual basis of martial law in a sound manner, and should, for example, Your Honor, those incidents, if those incidents had been taken up, Your Honor, then the Congress should have looked into that. That's the first, Your Honor. The second thing, Your Honor, is as far as the main relief, Your Honor, that is being sought here, it is really to review martial law, Your Honor.
Counsel, if you are correct, then this court now will be asking again factual questions on the veracity of what has been alleged in the affidavits to support the complaints of 4 of your petitioners. And the reason this court is not asking is that indeed, and I go back to the question, and please develop it in your memorandum, it seems to me those factual questions are not fit for this court to hear and decide now. And please cover it in your memo.
Yes, Your Honor, we will do so, Your Honor.
Justice Kagiwa, you have any announcement?
In my line of questioning earlier, I went through a lot of incidents, and I realized because of the time constraint that we all face, that it would be difficult for you to get the TSN and figure out exactly what I've been questioning. So I took the liberty of reducing all of my incident questions into something in writing that I wish to grant. I wish to give to the Solicitor General, General Lorenzo, as well as 1 copy to the petitioner. So, Chief, if you don't mind, can I ask Attorney Aricheta to just give them? These are just a listing of all the incidents that I read into the record earlier during my period of interpellation. That's all, Chief.
Do you have enough copies to share to the petitioners?
I just have 3. I
All right,
suppose
we
they
can
can photocopy, Chief.
generate more copies for everybody. The clerk of court is so instructed. Nothing more, no? Wala na? Okay na? It is part of the advisory that all the parties will have to submit your respective memoranda on or before February 1. And that is Friday. And together with your memoranda, you should submit any material that have been required in the meantime for you to submit. Please be lucid and strong in your arguments that you will submit in your memoranda and support them with authorities, because the court has too little time to study this matter, and this is a very serious matter. We can never underestimate or understate the importance of this issue. So is that agreed? Do you all accept this responsibility of filing any questions? We have no questions. Okay, so we are done with the, yes, Congressman Lachman.
Your Honor, this is not a question, but we would like to request the Solicitor General to furnish the petitioners through counsel copies of the expanded presentation made by the Armed Forces of the Philippines, because this was not the same presentation given to the Congress. And also, if we could get soft copies of the same, hard and soft copies, Your Honor.
All right, the government, Solicitor General, you are required to furnish all this material that you are now being requested to furnish in soft as well as in hard copies. Yes, Attorney Cortez.
Your Honors, may we also request the Solicitor General, Your Honor, to furnish us with copies of the documents appended to their comment, Your Honor, because the copy that we have that they furnish us does not contain those documents, Your Honor, please.
Please, the Solicitor General, will you please take note that there are copies that or annexes that were not furnished to the petitioners? Will you please complete your service?
Can we have it as soon as possible, considering that we have a February 1
All right.
deadline, Your Honor?
I will instruct the Solicitor General or his assistant to take note of whatever matters you will need. Attorney Cortez. Attorney Cortez, the court is addressing you.
Yes, Your Honor.
You will confer with the assistant of the Solicitor General right after we adjourn
Yes, Your Honor.
and specify your requested materials.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the Solicitor General's office is instructed to furnish this immediately.
Yes, Your Honor.
And immediately means not later than noontime tomorrow.
Yes, Your Honor.
You know from Attorney Cortez what are those documents?
Chief.
Yes, Justice Kagiwa.
Justice Marvick just called my attention to the fact that since we have consolidated the fourth petition, our period to resolve this is to be counted now from the last petition. So that gives us a little bit more time, and in the interest of a comprehensive and complete presentation by the government of their position, perhaps we can move the February 1 deadline to February 4, so that gives them an additional weekend.
All right, there is a suggestion here. May I have the attention of every counsel? May I have the attention of every counsel? The fourth case was consolidated only today. And that means that the reckoning of the 30-day period for our court to decide this matter will have to be moved backwards, or will have to be longer. So we are willing to give time to the Solicitor General to traverse anything that you may need to traverse as far as the petition of the fourth group of petitioners is concerned. If you wanted that, we will extend the deadline to February 4 for submission of all your memoranda. Is that good for everybody? Do you accept that on the part of the petitioners? What about the government? You do accept that also? So I think after we adjourn, will you please listen to each other's needs and wants and give them? The last time that you will comply will be tomorrow noontime. If anything has to be furnished to the other side, please do so. Anything that is not furnished according to this deadline, if that is brought to our attention, you will know that you will be sanctioned. Okay? So that is very clear. Any other matters that you want to be acted upon on the part of the petitioners, on the part of the usual suspects? The government? No more? In that case, we will now adjourn. The oral arguments are done and completed. And so we adjourn, and you have until February 4. The oral arguments set for tomorrow are already canceled. Thank you all for your attendance.